Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I'm Dr. Abdur Rahman and we are learning ECG. In the previous videos, we have discussed in detail how these action potentials are generated in different conducting and non-conducting tissues of the heart and how ultimately they will lead to the formation of ECG, which is the cumulative effect of all of these action potential. And we discussed that how sodium, calcium and potassium act at different level of the action potential and ultimately affect our ECGs. In the previous video, we discussed in detail how hypocalcemia and hypercalcemia, hypokalemia and hyperkalemia affect our ECG in terms of QT and T waves. But in this video, I will discuss three things with you. I will discuss how sodium imbalances and affect our heart, or how sodium channel blockers affect our ECG. And after that, we will learn another concept called after depolarization. And in the end, I will just briefly discuss about digoxin toxicity. I will discuss digoxin toxicity at this level because it is very closely related to the concept of after depolarization, and maybe in the next videos when we will discuss ECGs and abnormalities in detail, we will come back to this again. So let's go back to our whiteboard. So first of all, let's take sodium abnormalities. We learned that hyperkalemia and hypercalcemia, similarly hypokalemia and hypocalcemia, affect ECG in different ways. But in terms of sodium, it is not affecting our ECG. It is not affecting our ECG as much as potassium and calcium does. There are multiple reasons for that. First of all, because our extracellular sodium is very much high, it is almost 10 times higher than the intracellular sodium. So a little change in sodium concentration extracellularly doesn't affect the overall gradient of sodium across the sodium channels. For example, if our normal sodium is 140, and even if there is a huge difference of 160 comes in extracellular fluid, it will not be having a huge change in terms of the gradient as compared to potassium or chloride. For example, if we have a potassium of 4.5 extracellularly and it increased to almost, you can say, 6, then even this 1.5 increase in the potassium will be huge. But in terms of sodium, the extracellular potassium concentration, even higher or lower, will not affect as much as potassium and calcium does. There is another reason, and that is because the sodium channels, they are voltage gated. And voltage gated channels, usually they are not dependent upon the concentration. They are not dependent upon concentration. They are dependent upon the voltage across the channel. So even if sodium concentration becomes higher or lower, as soon as voltage is not changing, it is not affecting our transport of sodium across the cell, or it will not be affecting the depolarization. And the third and another important reason is because the sodium effect overall in our body, even if we say let's take on CNS, where sodium is having a huge contribution in terms of hyperkalemia and hypernatremia or hyponatremia, it is not due to sodium itself. It is not due to sodium itself. It is due to osmolarity which is being generated by the sodium, because we know that sodium is one of the huge contributor of our osmolality of the body. I hope you remember this formula. And because sodium is one of the huge contributor of the osmolality. So all the effects which sodium is exerting on our body, whether it is in terms of our extracellular fluid, in terms of osmolality, in terms of cerebral edema, it is related to the osmolality and not due to sodium electrolyte itself. So and when it comes to osmolality, changes in osmolality will not be affecting our heart. So these are multiple reasons due to which sodium concentration outside the cell is not affecting our heart in terms of hyper or hyponatremia. But how does this how come this sodium is important to discuss here? It is because of sodium channel blockers. Because we will affect the heart not by changing in sodium concentration but by blocking the channel itself. If we have some drugs which block the sodium channel, then obviously there will be a huge effect because we will be unable to depolarize the cell. And we know that our upstroke, this phase 0 of our action potential, is because of fast sodium channels, voltage gated sodium channel, by which sodium was coming inside the cell and we were having a fast upstroke. So when these channels are blocked, there will be no fast upstroke and then there will be this type of depolarization. So our depolarization will be delayed. And when our depolarization will be delayed, what will be the effects? So in case of atria, if atrial depolarization is delayed, our P wave will be more flattened because it was showing our depolarization, and ultimately it will lead to a prolonged PR interval and a flattened P wave, and sometime we will lose P wave. So on atria, there will be loss of P wave or increased PR interval. This is one of the findings which we can see as a toxicity of sodium channel blockers. And the second thing, when it comes to ventricle, if the ventricular cells, they have this type of rhythm, then what will be the effect on QRS? QRS will be prolonged, QRS will be widened. So on ventricle we will be having wide QRS complex because our depolarization is delayed because of sodium channel blockage. Moreover, we remember that our impulse started from SA node, it reaches AV node, and then it depolarized both of the ventricle by right and left bundle branches. And we know that right bundle branch is much smaller in size than the left one. So when there will be sodium channel blockage, right bundle branch will be at higher risk of being affected by this. So that's why there is a chance of fifth effect, right bundle branch block. And right bundle branch block, we will see an M-type QRS complex. We will discuss in detail later on. But as for now, just remember, in sodium channel blockers, we can have a right bundle branch block. And when we have a right bundle branch block, there will be right axis deviation because this bundle is blocked. What will happen? Impulse will come here, it will depolarize the left ventricle, and then from here the depolarization will come to the right bundle and our axis will be deviated to right side. We will discuss in detail in the video on axis and axis deviation. And the seventh and most important effect, there will be terminal R waves in AVR. Our next video will be on leads, and in that video I will explain about this AVR lead. But for now, just keep it in mind, our AVR lead is located over here. AVL lead is located over here. This is AVL, this is AVR on the right shoulder. So what will happen when and usually in AVR, AVR is always negative because it is always opposite to our cardiac axis. Our cardiac axis is here and AVR is always opposite to the cardiac axis. So almost always in normal condition AVR is negative because it is opposite to the cardiac axis. But we know that there was a right bundle branch block in case of sodium channel blocker toxicity, and our axis is deviated to the right side. So what happened in AVR? Our AVR was normally like this. So what will happen in sodium channel blockers? So we will have a normal negative R wave which will be representing the normal depolarization of left ventricle, and then after that we will be having a terminal positive R wave which will be representing right axial deviation and depolarization of right ventricle, which is a little bit delayed. So this one will be labeled as R prime and this one is S because it is a negative deflection. So normally there should be no R wave, it will be negative, and there should be only S wave. But in sodium channel blocker we can see a terminal R wave because right ventricle is depolarized after the left ventricle, and this R wave size, it should be at least 0.7 times more than the S wave. So R to S ratio should be 0.7 to 1. It means that if we have 1 millimeter deep S wave, we should have at least 0.7 millimeter high R wave, and then it will be categorized as terminal R wave, and this terminal R wave is pathognomic for sodium channel blockers. So we can summarize the 5 or 6 different effects which sodium channel blocker can produce on ECG. There might be loss of P waves, there might be prolonged P waves, there might be increased PR interval, there might be increased QRS duration, there might be right bundle branch block which will lead to right axial deviation, and finally there will be terminal R waves in AVR. So these are the 7 types of findings which we can see in sodium channel blockers, and one of the most common example of sodium channel blocker is tricyclic antidepressant or TCAs. And the most common finding in ECG of TCA poisoning is sinus tachycardia, and this sinus tachycardia is not mentioned here above because this sinus tachycardia is not due to sodium channel blockage, rather it is due to muscarinic antagonism, because TCA also affect muscarinic cells or muscarinic receptors. So they block the muscarinic receptors which causes sinus tachycardia. This is the most common finding in a patient with TCA toxicity, but most pathognomic will be terminal R wave in AVR. So this was all about sodium channel toxicity. Now let me discuss another important concept of after depolarization. As the name shows that it will be depolarization which will be a little bit delayed. This after depolarization is of two types. One is early after depolarization and other one is delayed after depolarization. So again the name is showing that this is a delayed repolarization which will be relatively earlier, and this is also a delayed repolarization but it is relatively delayed as compared to this one. It looks difficult, but let me show you with the help of this picture and it will be easier to follow. So this was our normal action potential. This was our normal depolarization, then plateau and then repolarization. Okay, so after depolarization mean depolarization has already happened over here. So anything which is occurring after that, after the first normal depolarization, will be after depolarization. So if that after depolarization is happening during late second or third stage of our depolarization of our action potential, then it will be called as early after depolarization. But if it happened in this area, it will be termed as delayed after depolarization. So if it is happening in this point, if a new depolarization, if after depolarization is happening at this point, it will be early after depolarization. If it is happening at this point, it will be delayed after depolarization. So let us make a new one. So as I told, this area will be early after depolarization. So how early after depolarization can happen? As I told you, in our ventricles and atria, we need some stimulus to generate an impulse. So when some stimulus comes, because these cells don't have automaticity, so what happens when some stimulus comes, the stimulus help this baseline to achieve a specific threshold potential, and that after achieving that threshold potential, sodium channel opens and we have a depolarization, plateau and repolarization. On the other hand, in our pacemaker cells, what was happening? We have a constant rise in our resting membrane potential, and ultimately that was achieving a threshold potential without any stimulus, and the same thing was happening in case of Purkinje fibers, which are having property of automaticity and pacemaker potential. So what happened in after depolarization is we got a stimulus. Yes, we got a stimulus. We got our threshold potential, and then there is normal depolarization, and then there was normal plateau where calcium was coming in and potassium was going out of the cell. And after that, potassium continues to efflux and cell was going back to its normal resting state of resting membrane potential. But sometime what happened, because this whole area is above the threshold potential, so there might be a reactivation of calcium channels. Calcium channel can reopen around this area, and then we might get another depolarization. So what was happening? Normal depolarization happened. Calcium was here. The channel closed for a while, and then channel again opened, and we have another depolarization, and then channel closed. Potassium is effluxing, and again back to baseline. So this type of picture we are getting, and this type of thing is called early after depolarization. So sodium was acting over here, calcium was coming inside here, potassium was going out here, and calcium initially closed. At this point, calcium channel is initially closed, but again around here calcium channel again opened, calcium again came inside the cell which was initially stopped, causing the cell to depolarize, and then again calcium channel closed, and the previous thing happened, potassium went out, and then back to resting membrane potential. So this little thing can happen because calcium channel can reopen, and it is not happening normally. It will happen when someone is having a genetic disease which is causing is QT prolongation. So someone who is having prolonged QT syndrome, in that person our action potential duration will be longer, and this longer action potential duration will put him at risk of reopening of calcium channel and generation of early after depolarization, and this early after depolarization can lead to arrhythmias. So that's why it is important. And sometime instead of calcium, sodium channel can also be activated at any of this area, and again it will lead to an action potential like this. So instead of going normally down, there is a new depolarization which will be called as after depolarization, and because it is happening in stage 2 and 3 junction, or in stage 3, this is called as early after depolarization, and it happens in patient with genetic disorders having QT prolongation. So now what is delayed after depolarization? As I told you, delayed after depolarization will be at this area. So at this area what happens? Everything was going normally. Sodium influx, depolarization, calcium potassium counterbalance each other, plateau, potassium went out, repolarization, and cell attain a resting membrane potential. So but before the cell received another, because the cell received one stimulus over here, before the cell received any stimulus, somehow this resting membrane potential increased, achieved threshold potential, and generated a new impulse. I will make a smaller image. So it was like this. Normally it was supposed to happen like this with the stimulus, but what happened around here? It achieved threshold potential, and then it generated an impulse of bizarre shape, and this impulse, which will be delayed in phase 4 but earlier than the actual action potential, will be called as delayed after depolarization. And now you can ask one question, that okay, here because we have a prolonged QT, and here because the cell was still above the threshold potential, we can say that calcium channel or sodium channel reopened and made early depolarization. But here, because calcium channel is also closed, sodium channel is also closed, and cell is also below the threshold potential, so what caused the cell to attain this potential? So there is one very important condition in which this can happen, and that is digoxin toxicity. In digoxin toxicity, a cell can achieve this potential without any stimulus. So what happens in digoxin toxicity? We know the mechanism of action of digoxin. We have two types of channels in our cell to explain the action of digoxin. Our favorite, sodium potassium ATPase channel. So this is our sodium potassium ATPase channel, and this one sodium calcium exchanger. So digoxin actually acts on sodium potassium ATPase and block this channel. What was the function of this channel? This channel was pushing 3 sodiums out of the cell and putting 2 potassium inside the cell. And this is the channel which is responsible for maintaining higher concentration of sodium outside the cell and higher concentration of potassium inside the cell. What does digoxin do? Digoxin blocks this channel. So when digoxin blocks this channel, this sodium, it will not go out, and this potassium will not come in. So what will ultimately happen? Sodium will build up in the cell because it is not going out. So sodium will build up inside the cell. This is one thing. Now, what is the function of this sodium calcium channel? Sodium calcium channel, basically, it pushes sodium inside the cell from higher concentration to lower concentration in exchange of calcium outside the cell. This is its normal function. So when there is digoxin toxicity, our sodium potassium ATPase is blocked, inside sodium is built up. When inside sodium is built up, no more sodium will come in. When no more sodium is come in by sodium calcium channel, no more calcium will go out. So with sodium, calcium will also be built up in the cell because now no more calcium is going out. So this calcium helps improving contractility of our heart. So this is the function of digoxin, and this is how it improves contractility, because ultimately it blocks sodium potassium channel, but ultimately it builds up calcium inside the cell. But when we take too much digoxin, and which caused too much calcium inside the cell, so there will be too much calcium and there will be too much sodium in the cell, and this too much calcium will increase resting membrane potential, just like funny currents which were doing in our pacemaker cells. In our pacemaker cells, potassium was going out and sodium was coming in. So that is why instead of a straight line, their resting membrane potential was like a slope, and it was achieving a threshold potential. So what will be happening here? Potassium is still going out, but now calcium is building up in the cell. When calcium is building up in the cell, due to higher calcium level, ultimately it can achieve a threshold potential. So when it achieved a threshold potential, it will lead to another depolarization, and this will be delayed after depolarization, and this delayed after depolarization will also lead to arrhythmias. And how we will see in this delayed after depolarization in the ECG, we will see as biphasic, a bidirectional arrhythmia. We will see as bidirectional arrhythmia. So this is our normal depolarization, while this is delayed after depolarization. Why it is negative, I will explain in the later video when we will discuss T waves in detail. But as for now, just remember, redoxon toxicity causes buildup of calcium in the cell, which will lead to delayed after depolarization, and in our ECG we will see a bidirectional arrhythmia or bidirectional rhythm. And what does it mean? There will be one positive and one negative QRS, and the positive QRS will be the normal one and negative QRS will be due to delayed after depolarization. And that is for today.